Okay then, we should be live, I believe. YouTube shows a green connection, albeit a slightly broken one. No, okay. We should be good. So a little bit earlier than I was thinking, but no time like the present when everything is already in place, so we may as well get going right now. Give it a little bit of time for everyone to get in before we start getting into the meat and bones of what I have to talk about today. And yes, excellent connection. It is very nice to have a wired connection now. That's one of the few things that my channel has to benefit from given my new circumstance. You'd love to see that. How's OBS doing as well? Because that was the thing that started to let me down a little bit last time. Seems to be okay for now. I can keep a more direct eye on it in this format anyway, so there isn't too much to worry about there. Okay. There is a little bit of... I don't know what YouTube have done to their voices being a little bit robotic again. I can fix that more, don't worry. That should fix it. It could also be the case that there is audio being picked up by the camera as well, but I don't think so. I should have disabled that. Anyway, hey Underedge, the next replay will be coming out at the weekend. And it's a good one actually. It's one of Eclipse's scenarios, and it's a follow-up to one that I've done previously. Hey there, Envy, and Lord Heckle Smosh. Well, give a couple more minutes before I start talking about the main talking points that I had. The reason why I want to do this stream in the first place is just to get a bit of information, a little bit of context across to people. Hey there, Daniel, and here I am. Because I do feel like with my new situation, I haven't really adequately explained it as of yet. Like I've tried to talk about it at the end of replays, but that's not really the best place to do so. I think giving it its own little area is probably for the best. Hey there, Calvin. Because while you will probably not notice, from the viewer's perspective, you probably won't notice a great deal of change. At least from this point onwards. It is still worth talking about in case it does. Do you plan on continuing the Divide and Conquer campaigns? For the moment, that's not going to be possible. And by for the moment, I mean during the summer, because that will be a talking point as we get into the the main part of the video. And that is the fact that the summer is the busiest time for people in my line of work. Hey there, Joseph, and Anand, and Beastie. I'm good, Anand, thank you. But yeah, I think we'll start talking about it now, actually. There seems to be quite a few people in. Excuse me. I'm looking pretty scruffy as well, as a result of not really having time to slow down and actually get myself down to the barbers. But yes, the main reason behind me wanting to do this channel update, hey there, Owen. I'm good, thank you very much. I hope you are as well. It's just to talk about my new situation and how that may very well impact the channel, or it has impacted the channel in as big a way as I would expect it to be honest with you. And that is, I've obviously changed my upload schedule fairly substantially from the start of the year, in that I've reduced the content by one video a week essentially. I still can add in videos here and there, to be fair, but I can't do that with any sort of regularity at the moment, and that's because of the work schedule that I have. Now, for those of you who don't know, I did secure employment following my master's degree fairly quickly, actually faster than I was expecting to, especially in COVID times, at the start of March. And the nature of the work means that I essentially have to I go away for a maximum of 3 weeks at a time, which makes running the channel as I did somewhat difficult. It's not impossible to keep up the pace that I did before, but it would have been quite unenjoyable, and if I'm making this unenjoyable for myself, I think I'm doing it wrong. So I decided to settle on a bit more of a fixed schedule, which is something I've never really had before. I've just done it as and when I could, as much as I could. But now I can... I feel like this is for the best. I think a bit more organisation is definitely what's called for in this sort of situation. Now, I am a hydrographic surveyor, which means that I go out and I do bits and pieces, like on the water, basically surveying on smaller vessels for construction projects and the like. It's a good job. The problem is, of course, from a channel perspective, which is what we're interested in at this moment in time, those 3 weeks that I'm away means I have to pack in as much recording as I can during the 3 weeks that I'm here. And the 3 weeks that I'm here, I do still have to go into the office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, that sort of thing. So it's not as if I've got free reign to do with those 3 weeks as I would like. If that was the case, then things would be much, much easier. But yeah, so that's essentially the situation as it is. Like, that's what's going to be happening from now. And it is worth saying that I don't intend to be in this position permanently by any means. This is more of a sort of stepping stone, as it were. It's likely to last anywhere from a year to 2 years. I don't know, I couldn't predict where the channel will be in 2 years' time, of course, but there is that to consider. The fact that eventually we will be moving past the job, well, we'll be moving into a different sector, and it will be one as well where I won't have this rather crippling 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. It looks like you're more concerned about YouTube's channel than your life. No, that's not the case, Guru. It's more the fact that this live stream is intended to be all about the channel, so I'm looking at it from that perspective. If I was more concerned about the YouTube channel, I never would have taken the job in the first place, because I knew it would have been difficult to carry it on in the form that it was in. But carry on it will. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, the fact of the matter is as well, it's not... With my current workload, this is comfortable enough, I would say. There may be the odd time during the summer where one video or two perhaps are missing, but that's something I should be able to avoid. It kind of depends on if they ask me to work extra or not, which they probably will for one project in particular. But yeah, that is what it is. Something else I've got to mention as well is actually something I wasn't expecting to have to talk about. If you do stop making YouTube videos, I hope your channel doesn't go down. I won't stop making them, Beastie. It'll just be that the amount that I will be able to do will fluctuate a little bit. But I should be able to keep up this pace at the very least, so there shouldn't be too much to worry about there. Something that I wasn't expecting to have to talk about, though, is recently I was recording a... Will you do some Rome Remaster multiplayer replays? This is actually going to tie into what I'm going to talk about now, and that is the fact that I was recording a Siege on Moria the other day, which actually was from Beastie, wasn't it? And I encountered a type of crash that I haven't encountered before, and that was it caused my computer to completely restart. It wasn't just a crash to desktop, it was like a full crash, and it happened twice, which alarmed me because it made me think that maybe it was actually my system that's finally giving up. The thing that makes me a little bit optimistic in that case, though, is that it was a crash that happened at pretty much exactly the same point in the battle both times. So it makes me think that maybe it was just something about that replay in particular that was the problem. I'm going to be doing some replays over the weekend. I'll try and bulk record on some bigger scenarios, which will hopefully stress test my system a little bit. And with that, I'll be able to find out whether or not it is actually my computer that's on the way out, or whether it was just that one replay. I hope it's the latter, because I can't really afford to completely replace my computer yet. I would be able to fairly comfortably later on in the year, which is what I do intend to do. But I couldn't do so yet, and I really don't want there to be a gap of like 2 months before I'm able to do stuff again. That would be a real pain. So far so good though. I think it's fine, but it might not be. So to come back to Kuro talking about Rome Remaster, stuff like that, and in particular I have had people ask me about Rise of Mordor, which I have wanted to do, but because of how Attila is and because of how demanding Rise of Mordor is, my computer wouldn't be able to do that justice. I can run it, but it wouldn't be up to the level of quality that I would want it to be at. So that's the intention. I will be doing stuff like that probably towards October, November, and in the winter, because it's much more difficult to go out on the water and actually get good data in the winter. There's a lot less work, so you have to spend a lot less time away. So it'll be a lot easier to get into those sorts of things, to branch into those areas, and it will also be easier to do proper live streams again, rather than just the once in a blue moon kind of thing that I've got going on at the moment. I did one with J-Monster a couple of weeks back. I'm doing this one now. I don't know how many I'll be able to do over the summer and early autumn, to be honest, but that is the idea. You miss playing multiplayer? Yeah, I do, honestly, Calvin. It's less of a case of burnout at this point. I would play if I had the time, but any free moment I have that I want to dedicate to Medieval 2 based things at the moment, I have to spend on recording. Otherwise, I will at some point over the summer fall behind. I still have just over a month's worth of stuff recorded and uploaded, but obviously that will trickle away pretty quickly if I'm spending 3 weeks a time away. Are you in any of the upcoming replays? You almost stopped showing yourself off the past few months, really? Well, that's the reason why I just mentioned there, Under Edge. It's been a very packed first half, more or less, of 2021 for me, and that would be the reason why. Like I said, once I get through summer, things will level off a little bit more, and I'll be able to get back to engineering the channel a little bit more. Looking at what I can do to never mind about that, but looking at what I can do to get that sort of thing back rolling again, because I do want to, and I do intend, if I can, actually to play at least one game over the weekend if I can get involved with that. Again, it kind of depends on circumstance. There's a lot of moving parts to everything that I do at the moment, but then that's only natural, really. It's a big, especially in COVID times, it's a big life step to go from one side of the country to the other and start up a whole new thing. What's your favourite Third Age faction? To play, or just in general, the general feel of it, Marco? Would you say you need a lot more replays for that 3-week gap? Generally speaking, the amount of replays I get is not a problem. I've actually got one that I'm going to be doing probably after work, either tomorrow or on Friday, that I got from Lango. I very recently did a replay from someone called Theron, I think, who's someone I'd never heard of before, actually, before that, but they made a scenario and it's very good as well. And Eclipse has also sent me another scenario on a dwarven town with a bunch of assets that I believe WK did for him. So yeah, I've got a couple of scenarios and I've got a few other replays as well. Of course, I'm always willing to accept more because it gives you that margin for error. It also allows you to get... It also raises the quality, generally, of the stuff that I can put out. If I get a bunch of replays, I can pick, obviously, the best of the best. And that's generally how it is. To play, I quite like Rude Hour, which is weird because, generally speaking, I do also like Heavy Armor because it masks my inefficiencies a bit, but Rude Hour have got that close range punch, which is just really nice. By the end of the year, 10k subs, easy. Well, if Rise of Mordor is that popular come October, November, maybe we can jump up that high, eh? Hey there, Lewis. Good to see you. I really need a haircut, don't I? That's crazy. I need to shave as well. We're on scruffy settings at the moment. But yeah, it's also worth... I do also think that I need to put some sort of acoustic absorbers in this corner, to be honest, because I think it would help with the microphone reverberation, which I know is there. Weirdly, more recently, I've been taking Rude Hour on Moria. Well, Rude Hour have got that damage that you can use to try and bust through defensive positions a little bit more quickly. Milos. Hey man, cheers from Serbia. Nice to have you around. Hopefully it's not too late in Serbia. No, you're not that far ahead, are you? Maybe 2 hours ahead of us? Yeah, that'll be fine. But yeah, Rude Hour are good. Something else I wanted to get into as well. I was actually... Because the thing about the job was I wasn't expecting to go into one that quickly. I was honestly expecting it to be like September that I was going in. And I was kind of planning my year and the channel progression around that. So it took me by surprise. I didn't expect to get this one when I put in for it because it was so close to the deadline. So it did knock me off balance a little bit. One thing that I did intend to do was to get into Bannerlord as well a little bit more, and maybe do a bit of that. That's the sort of thing that I would probably do more on live streams as well, which naturally at this point in time is going to be a little bit more difficult. But hopefully by the time I can get back into live stream again, Bannerlord is going to be one of those things, much like Rise of Mordor with its updates, that has received a little bit more care and attention, and we'll be able to get some new content on the go. Grow the hair and beard, embrace your inner Viking. I don't know if I could grow my hair long, like super long. The beard I would be more open to. The problem with my beard though, it's not so obvious in this light, I don't think. But especially in like daylight, what you can see is my beard is actually like red or ginger, to give it its proper name. So in the sunlight, my beard and facial hair is a different colour to the hair on my head. So it's weird. I'm like one of those, you know, those cars that are like two-tone and they change colour as they drive past you. That's what my hair is like when I grow my beard. I hope more people join your channel once the Amazon show comes out. That is another interesting thing. I don't actually know when that is slated to come out. Love your vids. Keep up the good work. I'm afraid I cannot pronounce your name, but it's great to have you here. Hey from Canada. Have you ever played Warhammer 40k Fantasy Sigma? Not tabletop, no. The closest I've ever gotten to Warhammer is basically video game interpretations of Warhammer. Obviously the Total War game, but also Vermintide. Have a lot of fun with a couple of friends of mine on Vermintide. It's all good stuff. It's quite common in people. I'm all ginger. Do you have Irish or Scottish ancestry by any chance? So what will be your upload schedule moving forward? The upload schedule moving forward is there will be replays or videos at the very least. Obviously this is kind of taking the place of what would have been a replay, but it allows me to just move it along a little bit. There will be videos out on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 6 o'clock GMT, because that's kind of the best middle ground between people who are further east of the GMT line and also further west in places like America and Canada, because I do seem to have quite an eclectic mix of people that watch my videos and tune in for the live stream, so I feel like that's probably the best time of day to do it. So yeah, that's going to be the definite videos, and then anything else will be in addition to that. So for example, if I do a live stream in the week, chances are it will be either Monday, Thursday or Friday, that sort of thing. So that's the idea, Gavin R. Is the new Amazon show about the Second Age? Apparently so. I am Scotland. Just like Windy. I watch a lot of streamers daily, but your videos make me stop what I'm doing to watch the gameplays. Yeah, I think that's where I do have a bit of an advantage with this, because as it is, doing live streams is a little bit more difficult. But doing pre-records is more doable, and I think the replay format, it suits pre-records better, so it's allowed me to be a little bit flexible in that regard. That person's name is Lee Liu Mei. This in English. That's cool. Although, like, Asian languages have got a lot of nuance with their pronunciation as well. So I don't know if I'm actually saying that correctly. Hopefully I am, or at least I'm not completely butchering it. I'm in America and your vids usually drop around mid or late afternoon for me. Yeah, which is probably for the best. It's not too early in the day for Americans and Canadians and anyone else that may be over there. I don't know how many viewers I necessarily get in South America. Probably not as many. But yeah, I got to run. Parental duties catching. Oh, that is quite all right, Calvin. Please do. Have a good day, and I shall see you next time. But yeah, it's one of those things that I never really expected to have a decent viewer base like further east, if that makes any sense. Like, you get a lot of people from like the Indian subcontinent that often stopped in during my live streams for the Divide and Conquer campaigns, because it was a really good time of day for them, which surprised me. It really did. But I was very glad for it as well. And of course the Divide and Conquer live streams are the sort of thing that I would want to bring back come autumn time as well. But yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, this is, while it may be a very long-term view on things, the position I'm in at the moment, it will be like 2022 at some stage is when I will be moving somewhere else. And it's not just me not enjoying the job, because I think the job is fine. It's more a case of, at that point in time, they won't be able to promote me to the point that I would need to be at, based on the experience level I have, because all of the more experienced positions are already filled at that place, and they're likely to be so because no one of that level of experience has left the company in like 5 years, so they're not going anywhere. So I will need to go somewhere else, or something else that I have been looking into doing as well is going in to maybe do a PhD, which is a big commitment, but so is everything at this point. How far did you agree with the statement that Fëanor did nothing wrong? Fëanor... I think it's fair to say that Fëanor did quite a lot wrong. It's one of those... Fëanor did nothing wrong is kind of like a meme, really, more than anything else. I missed the first part of the stream. Could you do a recap of what's happening, please? It's more just me giving a little bit of context about how the channel has changed since the start of the year because of the employment that I've gained, and how I will be carrying on with the upload schedule that I have at the moment from now on, and also a little bit more about how I'm going to be doing things in the future going forward into later this year and next year as well. Do you have any interest into Seven Kingdoms Total War for Attila? A little. I think the flame of Westeros died a little bit, didn't it, with how much of a thud the show landed with. I think that's the case with pretty much everyone, including the author of the books themselves. It's still neat, but there was also the thing about Seven Kingdoms Total War. I was actually following it for a little while. I think back in 2018, was it? When it was still in active development, I was following it and it looked really cool, but then I can't remember what it was, but there was a really long period where it didn't update basically at all, and I kind of completely lost focus on it. Has it sort of rekindled its active development? But like I said, Rise of Mordor is something I will be getting into sort of later in autumn, winter time, when I have my new, when I manage to get a new system. Hopefully by then the prices of certain bits of hardware are a little bit more friendly than they are at the moment. But yeah, I'll be doing Rise of Mordor then, so other Attila mods will also come into the equation as well, I'm sure. Seven Kingdoms potentially. Medieval 1212 almost certainly. Who's your favourite character from the Game of Thrones show? Show? I think you'd have to give that to Tywin Lannister. Not the character that I would like the best, but I think he's the best character in the show. Masterfully played. And it's no coincidence that the show's quality started to decrease when he exited stage left, so to speak. Medieval 1212 sounds great. Yeah, Medieval 1212, I have done a couple of videos about on that. It was way further back in development though, so it's come a long way since then. But yeah, Attila-based stuff in general is what I do want to get into that, but that's mainly an issue of hardware, to be honest. Like, I would actually start folding that sort of thing in now, if not for the fact that I wasn't convinced about my PC as it is at the moment. I just wouldn't be able to show it off to the level of fidelity that those deserve. I could still run it on reasonably high settings, but not to the really good standard that I think people want. Hey there, Lucas. I got a new gaming PC through PC Specialist UK. Yeah, fortunately, I'm in a rather privileged position where I have a couple of friends who are really up on this sort of thing. So I can basically give them a budget that I can spend and go and pick out a bunch of parts for me, and I'll order them up and put them together. And it'll make my money go further. And they're really good at it. So that's certainly something that I have going in my favour. The money that I save doing that, actually, I might just get someone else to build it for me, because it's paranoia when you're spending that much stuff or that much money on stuff. You don't want to break it through your own incompetence. I'm sure I can put a PC together, but yeah. Would you say Attila is worth the $40 just for Rise of Mordor, or just wait for a sale? It honestly depends on how much you intend to play it. I would say if you're playing it regularly, week to week, any game is probably worth $40. Attila is also, it's not just Rise of Mordor, there are other mods. There's even the base game of Attila. I'm not the biggest fan of Attila mechanically, but I won't deny the fact that it has a lot of good parts to it, and its modding scene is probably the best thing about it, to be honest. The fact that there are a lot of good mods that get made for it. That is a really good selling point to me. And especially seeing as, to be honest, my channel will likely always be about mod projects, to be honest, regardless of where the channel may go. It will likely stay in the realm of Total War strategy games, or at the very least that sort of old warfare style of game, stuff like Mount and Blade Bannerlord as well, which is also an extremely moddable game. And it's such a feather in the cap of a game if you can do that. It's one of the reasons why Attila is still a relevant game even now. I mean, it's 7 years old at this point, and it's still going strong. Medieval 2 is an even better example of that, because Medieval 2 is, came out in 2006, so it's 15 years old, and people still play it far more regularly than many of the more modern Total War titles. Do you think that Med 2 is the best Total War title? Yes, Joseph, I do. Partly for the reason that I just mentioned, but I think also mechanically it's really well designed. I think some people do prefer Rome 1 mechanically to Medieval 2, but I don't have that much experience with Rome 1. Hey there, Gervais. After you finished completely dumpstering me in the last live stream, you expect to butter me up in this way? Rome Remaster has 5K daily, while Med 2 4K to 5K. Yeah, exactly. I think that is a big part of that is down to the mods, but also a big part of that is just down to the fact that Medieval 2 is, the time period is something people really enjoy. The mechanics are really, really solid. Med 2's just got so much going for it. It's one of those games that it gets it so right for me. Attila has 3K. I mean, Attila having 3K is still not bad at all. Even it is less than Medieval 2, of course, but that is still pretty damn good. The gameplay mechanics of Med 2 is what makes it so great. Rome 1 has got based on what I can see, Rome 1 has got a very similar feel to Med 2. But then you would expect that. They were made around the same time, based on the same sort of stuff. It wasn't personal. Of course not, Gervais. I shall be stronger next time. I shall embrace the annoying way of playing, of hiding in the trees. That way you can't just roll me over because you won't know where I am. Do you know anything about the next Third Age patch? A little. I don't really feel as though I'm the best person to be dishing out information on that, purely because I'm not a dev. You know, I've come to I only really want to say stuff that I've been expressly told, rather than just going on random speculation, to be honest, because I would not be helping at all if I was just randomly speculating, I don't think. Also, Med 2 is quite historically accurate, which is more than you can say for other... Yeah. I mean, it's got weight behind it, Medieval 2, which is something that modern Total War titles have lost quite a lot of. It's actually something that... It's one of the aspects about Attila which I think is inferior. Like, everything feels a bit more floaty. I don't mind it so much in Warhammer, because Warhammer is meant to be a little bit more arcadey. But in the other ones, like, there needs to be a little bit more oomph behind it. That's way more than the Halo 5. Oh, Halo 5, don't get me started on that. That's a whole different ball game. Up for a quick game in Silmarillion? I couldn't at this point. I do actually have a prior engagement for half 8, which is in, well, more or less, I've only got about half an hour, which isn't really enough time to really get my teeth into actual games. Unfortunately. I gotta run. See you, Lewis. Thank you for stopping by. Hey, you mad? How has it been? It's Kenobi. Hello there. Captain Misadventure is your new name, is it? Will there be more top 10s or quality versus quantity? Interesting you say that, I am Con. Because that may be the sort of thing which does crop up, actually. Replays are obviously quite large. They take quite a while to render. If I can see the fact that I'm going to be away for 3 weeks and I'm going to run out of content and I need to record a bunch of things a little bit more quickly, what I will do is I will research in advance and I'll do a couple of top 10 videos. So possibly over the summer. It's more likely that they will make a return now than it has been for a while. I also feel as though there are a few top 10 videos I could do. But yeah, I would say that there's probably about a 60 to 70% chance that yes, there will be over the course of July and August. See you, Joseph. Thank you very much for stopping by. But yeah, there's a few top 10s I could do. I think also by that, I don't know exactly the timetable for the next patch, but it's the sort of thing that I could definitely do for the Reforged patch. It's the sort of thing I could do for something like Silmarillion as well. I don't know what form they will take. The reason why I stopped doing them in the first place really was I was oversaturating that. Like I basically did one for every patch, and because the patches were coming pretty thick and fast back then, the game was chugging along through the patches pretty quickly. I was ultimately littering YouTube with too many of them, and I felt like I needed to take a step back from that. And since then as well, the game it's stepped back from those really rapid fire patches, and it's taking its time a little bit more with sort of slower but bigger patches. So it makes a little bit more sense, I think, to get involved with that sort of thing as they come. It's the sort of thing I could do as well for stuff like Rise of Mordor later in the year, but that's like way further in the future because I can't actually do Rise of Mordor yet, and I wouldn't deign to judge something like that without having played it first. Having said that, Attila is a far easier game to quantify with its mechanics about what represents like the best two-handers, for example, two-handed shock infantry. In Attila, you can already tell that all of them are going to be tier 3 units. So that makes your life a lot easier, and the stats are also significantly easier to look through as well. So, to be fair, it is the sort of thing I could probably do without actually having played the game without having played Rise of Mordor with a pretty high degree of accuracy. You Mad Beard game looking strong. It's going okay. I'm still undecided on it, to be honest with you. I was thinking about shaving it, but I don't know. I'm looking a bit scruffy, especially with the hair. Like the hair is getting a little bit out of control. No idea when Reforged is coming out. Maybe optimistic around September if I'm super optimistic. Well, that actually, if it's after summer, that actually works quite nicely for me because it means I can actually spend a little bit more time covering its initial release. If it comes out in if it were to come out in July or August, I would probably be gone when it came out, and then I would be like back and there's the patch. Let's split up, gang. 1969. What is the easiest ways to send replays to you? Discord is the place to be. The DMs on Discord. You send me the replay file, and if there's any stipulations with that, like rules for the battle, you can also tell me in the same place. Hey there, Stewie. You look like Alfred from Last Kingdom's Netflix show. Do I? Hold on. I need to look at this man. I think I know who you're talking about. I can see the hair is what the hair is what you're going for there. It's true. Maybe with a bit of a trim. Elites versus elites could be good. Don't see that too often in the battles. Depends what battles. A lot of people. I would say actually you do see elites versus elites quite often, but if you do see it, it's often because the attackers are starting to, in a scenario, for example, if the attackers are starting to push back against the defenders have kept all of their best stuff back for too long, then you do see elites versus elites, but it's kind of it's overwhelming odds at that point in time. The high ground OP. It was the replay, actually, the scenario that Theron gave me, the one that I did most recently, that's got a lot of high ground in it. The defenders start off in this settlement that's tucked away in the hills, and the attackers have got a time limit that they have to push up there with. Kuro, can you give Stormguard back Phalanx? God, the Stormguard was so good with Phalanx though. Like it's one of those like horrifying. Like if you give a unit Phalanx and multiple HP, like it basically becomes a case of they're like impossible to kill from the front, unless you outright overwhelm them and buckle their formation. Well, a few of my mates did Ents versus Trolls, and it wasn't pretty. A complete domination for the Trolls. Is that because of numbers? Because I would have thought the Ents, like 1-to-1 with the Trolls, would be good enough to kill off. Maybe the Olag High could put up a good fight, but they should be able to kill pretty much everything else. Please and thank you. Have you ever used the special period when doing a Third Age battle which unlocks a bunch of other units? I've shown off quite a few of those actually. You can always tell when people have used that because units that are no longer in the main game make an appearance again. So like the Vanguard of King Elisar, the Mountain Orc Archers that used to be a Misty Mountains unit, the old version of like the Mountain Orc Host. All of those units still exist in the game files and they're in the special period. I think even the really old, if anyone remembers the vanilla version of Third Age, the Orcs of Gundabad had Rudauer Axemen, which were like Rudauer Javelin men, and then like Axe and Shield Infantry, which it's a really old unit. I think they still exist in the game somewhere. That's like peeling back layers and layers of wallpaper until you get to the drywall that was vanilla Third Age. Hey there, Windy. Here after a handful of bevs. Midweek bevs? Oh yeah, but your on and off call periods are much wider than mine, so when you're off call you've got a little bit more wiggle room. So fair play, midweek bevs, absolutely alright. But yeah, the time of sort of being lazy in COVID is well and truly over for me. Had around 200 Ents. Trolls had nearly 700. Oh, well, yeah, then that's why. 500 more Trolls is going to be enough. The biggest update besides the factions for the next update will be about mirror matchups. Gondor versus Gondor. The only funny thing that will sadly stay are the banners and generic generals. Mirror matchups will be quite fascinating. I'd be interesting to see Angmar Rush versus Angmar Rush. Just two walls of black steel clashing. But for tournaments it's such a great thing. Yeah, it's much like the 8-way free-for-alls. Like that was something that people didn't think was possible and turns out it was. Mirror matchups is sort of in that vein. Opens up new possibilities. I wish I had Third Age. Just watch your videos. Do you not have access to a machine that could run it? I mean, Medieval 2 is not that demanding, to be fair. Especially not to play. Just kind of bev whenever I want. Pretty cool. Like living the Scottish dream, that is, isn't it? That's something, honestly, like working offshore, like properly offshore, that your schedule is something that would be more akin to what I would have. And that is maybe an option for something that I would do after I move on from this. Which would be interesting. It would actually be easier to do that and run the channel in that form, I think, because it means I would have a full block of time that I could spend on recording, rather than the pick and mix approach that I'm having to use at the moment, desperately trying to keep the month ahead of time that I have at the moment. All hail Paladin Bob who did it back in the day. Never forget. some factions against one another. Yeah, there's loads of civil war ideas that you could do. I think. I mean, Gondor is the obvious one, isn't it? The Gondorian Civil War. I have medieval, but not the mod. Oh well, you should join the Discord then. It's very easy to download and get involved with. It used to be a bit of it, like back in the earlier days where you had to do the file stuff yourself. It was a bit more of a pain, but now it's very easy. Putting with Star Heroes, waiting for deploy. Some units will be different in textures, but very little of them. I remember in Secondary 1 I saw some of your video with Apollo. And I waited like 3 years to have my video with Apollo. Was that the Kerandros siege by any chance? Because I remember playing with him and Jackie Fish one time, and that was it. I can't remember. I don't think there was another time. I think in the time since then he's mentioned me once, so he's very vaguely aware of my existence. Vaguely. Does anyone know if they're adding the Blue Mountains dwarves? Yes, but Coma is making them taken by millions of things he is doing. Yeah. Life gets in the way. What is the worst faction in Third Age? I mean, technically you'd have to say it's Dunland, because they're not really intended to be a balanced faction. They're just a hodgepodge of units from other factions that aren't particularly good, and then they've got 2 really good units which make the attempt at holding them together. But those Orthanc units that Dunland have are very, very nice, but it's not enough to make up for the fact that your army is not that great. Where's the Discord link? Well, to be fair, the Discord link in my videos is probably no good, because eventually they do time out. I think that was a problem that someone did flag to me once. Is why I actually stopped putting them in at one point, because it was no longer valid, which is unfortunate. But I'm sure that I could put them back into videos if people wanted me to. Dunland is better than Gondor because of warg spam and crossbow elites. Yeah, but if it's like Dunland against Gondor, and they go for like tons and tons of wargs, and Gondor just goes for all of their basically noob boxes, Dunland can't really do that much, because they're not going to have the amount of crossbows necessary to kill off the better Gondorian infantry to the extent that they would need. Am I wrong? I'm trying to think of what else Dunland have. I mean, their main line infantry is the Dunland veterans, isn't it? Which they're not... I mean, they're not a terrible unit, but they're not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with... yeah, they've got the Trollshort Axe Throwers. Well, I mean, the replay that I'm going to be trying to do either tomorrow or the day after has got Dunland and Rudauer in it. For those pikes. Yeah. Snaga Skirms. Oh, they got Snaga Skirms? Oh, I take it back. They're the best faction in the game. OP. Any faction with Snaga Skirmishers or Orc Javelins is automatically at the top of the power ranking list. Everything else about the faction is irrelevant. Yeah, they have the Rudauer cheap pikes. I know that, because I saw them in the little preamble for the replay that I'm going to be doing. Do you have a favourite map? Ooh. There's a question. I suppose I'm spoilt a little bit because I've seen so many maps. Seen a lot of maps. I'd have to. That's something that I would have to think about, because there's so many custom scenarios people have made where the maps are really, really good. Dunland were dangerous in the Battle of Helm's Deep in the book. First video I saw from you was top 10 faction. Yeah, that's not too surprising. That's still the most viewed video on my channel. That was back in the really early days of my channel. That was back when I was like near the start of university. Goes to show how long my channel's actually been chugging away for when I put it like that. It's a scary thought. Base game maps. Base game maps had quite a few. I mean, you'd have to say, of all of the ones that were put in from vanilla, you probably have to go with Minas Tirith. Because it doesn't have the really... It's not Rivendell. The original version of Rivendell was not very interesting. The original version of Edoras has suffered from kind of the same problems, where it's just two roads up the hill. They were designed for style more than substance, but Minas Tirith, yes, it's grindy, yes, it takes a long time to get through, and it works out in more... We've seen every way it can work out at this point, more or less, but it pretty much nailed exactly what a battle on that map is supposed to be about at the first time of asking. Moria kind of did that as well, but I've seen Moria so often, and it's always been a bit of a problem child. Grassy plains. Don't bring that evil to my doorstep. Grassy Plains is probably the map it's the map I've seen the most of in every context, because I used it for the top 10s and so on. WK is building his dream Haradrim settlement. Now that's something I wouldn't mind seeing. There's the loading screen that is in the game of that settlement that's partially crumbled with the Haradrim banners on it. Looks really cool. Something along those lines would be really nice. Really nice. Harad have got some good style. The Serpent Guard and the Black Serpents are good stuff. Which is more difficult to take, Moria or Minas Tirith? I mean, mechanically speaking, if the defenders were being as cancerous as possible, it would be Minas Tirith, because the choke point is so long. Like with Moria, there are points where the map does open out a little bit. With Minas Tirith, if you went to the top of the hill, there's nothing you can do. But that's the reason why people have to defend the first layer. I've heard about WK's Harad settlement. Heard good things. The master at work. Yes, indeed. Always goes the extra mile. Everyone's capital city will soon be rendered. That Dol Amroth map was so massive. It was so pretty, but it was so big the defenders couldn't defend all of it. I hope Dale is changed. The streets are so small and it's really hard to attack. Dale was being changed, wasn't it? Or at least the assets on Dale were being changed. I think some new buildings. How the study's going. Yeah, as Windy said, I'm done with the study. At least for now. Like, it's possible that I go back and do a PhD at some stage, but that's for the future. Like, that's not something that's going to be affecting us in the short or medium term. We're finished with the studies. We are gainfully employed. We're living the dream in rainy South Wales. Getting dinner? Well, yeah, he is working out a new Dale as far as I'm aware. Hi, Matt, I'm currently developing a multiplayer sub-mod for the Broken Crescent mod. If it gets finished and I send replays, would you be interested? Absolutely. If you want to send me replays and, you know, give me a bit of context behind what you're doing. Anything in Medieval 2 I can do on my current hardware, and it wouldn't be too difficult to do replays on. So yeah. If that's the sort of thing you want to send me, Discord is where to find me. Can you make more Dale and Dwarf videos? That's actually something I could take a little look at the schedule as it is. and I can tell you what's coming up in the near future. Let's see here. So the next replay is going to be, I don't know, oh, there we go. See you, Kuro. I shall see you soon. The old replay are so enjoyable to relook after a few years. It is the next. So anyway, so I get back onto my stride. The next replay that you're going to see, I don't know if any of you in the chat watched the replay that I dubbed Tarnost, Shield of Gondor's Heartland. It's basically the second part to that map where the same settlement is under Orcish occupation and there's all Orc structures that have been built into the sides of the ruined settlement, and it's the Men of the West trying to take it back. That'll be the next one. That'll be this weekend coming, and immediately following that will be a replay on Austin Athiel, which will see the elves trying to defend against the Orcs. And then the third one, I'll give you 3 before it then tails off into a few more. The third one is a scenario that Froggy made, actually, which is a Harad settlement, which is under attack by the Orcs. So they've rebelled, presumably. And he used a lot of the Aztec assets from Standard Medieval 2 to make that map, which I think is an interesting way to look at the Haradrim. There's a lot of these like Aztec pyramids and stonework that make up that settlement, and I think it suits Far Harad. So those are the next 3 that you'll see coming out. And obviously I have recorded a little bit further in advance. I've recorded all the way up to June the 19th to give myself plenty of room to manoeuvre, and I will be recording a few more replays before I leave, because my next on-call period, which is probably a good another good thing that I need to say before we start to wrap up here, the next on-call period will be next Tuesday. So I will be from the 18th of May for, I mean, technically 3 weeks is the maximum, but I think based on what I've been told, it will be the full 3 weeks this time, rather than the week and a half it was last time. So from the 18th of May for 3 weeks, I will be away. I should still be able to respond to the comments though, because I have linked I've linked it to my phone, so I should be able to at least respond to them. So I can keep dipped in to the channel, see what's happening. But obviously I won't be able to record while I'm out on site, and I won't have access to the internet at all times. So yeah, that is worth bearing in mind. But I hope to get 3 more replays done before I leave next Tuesday, and that should take me up to the beginning of July actually, which will give me plenty of margin for error, which is exactly the sort of thing that we want to see. Will you do a new campaign? Went through that a little bit earlier on, or at least I touched on that as well as a few other things. Stuff like live streaming on that scale I will likely be getting back to in the autumn, sort of the later autumn. I sent you a couple of replays. If you use them, do the commander battle first, it's better. Yeah, don't worry, I don't know if you can see this. This little sheet of paper, which is folded and knackered at this point, is the list for all of the replays that I have, and I tick off the ones that I've done. So I'm much less likely to forget a replay. And yours in particular, especially the commander battle, because it's a nice premise, that will be getting done at some point. But like I said, it will, because I'm already recorded up to late June, don't expect to see it until July, basically. But such is the way of things. Have to keep track of it, that's the thing, because especially now I'm going to be away for 3 weeks at a time, if people send me stuff while I'm away, I need to keep track of it somehow. Would you take the One Ring for yourself? Well, knowing the meta knowledge that we know, no, because the One Ring, no one can truly have the One Ring and be successful with it, other than Sauron himself. So it would be foolish to try and take the One Ring for yourself, as we have seen. Replay list. He's older than the Roman Empire. Yes, I use paper. To be fair, I use plenty of computers just generally in my work. So going back to the analog ways is actually somewhat refreshing. But it's also the most effective way because I can keep the sheet of paper here and I can just make sure that I've got everything. I could use a spreadsheet, I suppose, but that just means I've got another window open and it's just a pain. That was some good frozen processed chicken, delicious. We've all been there. Sometimes you got to live frugally, man. I have one question. Do you recognise my name from battle that was on your channel? If so, which video was it? It was on Moria, John Odinson, and actually it was one that actually caused some technical issues, but not because of you. But yes, I do. Dabbing out team, good night. Thank you, Windy. That's very kind of you. Enjoy your bevs and enjoy your off time. Have you ever tried Mountain Blade mods? I have played Warband, but it depends which ones. I played mostly the mods I used for Warband. Oh, it's not out yet, John. It won't be out for a few weeks yet, but you'll see it. It'll be the one on Moria. Mountain Blade mods. What I'm really excited for is the more substantial Bannerlord mods. So I think they could be superb. But as with all things related to Bannerlord, it's going to be a slow and somewhat laborious process to get there. But when we do, it is in theory the game without end. The dream we've all been waiting for. Where you too can play a Lord of the Rings mod in Mountain Blade and harass Gondorian peasants as some filthy orc. Yes, you do play as Umbar in that one. Right, anyway, we have been going for just shy of an hour, so we'll keep going for a little bit longer. As soon as we reach the hour mark, we'll start to wrap things up, I think. Just dropped in to say your replay commentary is the best sports commentary. Thank you. There's different types of sports commentary though, isn't there? There's like the South American football commentators, and then there's like commentators for golf. It's two very, very opposite ends of the spectrum. Hey there, Kamul. Nice to see you. Definitely get the Cut Through Everyone Bannerlord mod by Zorborax. Oh yeah, I mean, when it comes time for me to start getting into Bannerlord again, it will be a heavily modded version of Bannerlord. Scouts of Entertainment and Windy have made a video of the same battle. That happens quite a lot, to be fair. Can you do an Erebor map? I do actually have. Eclipse sent me a Dwarven scenario, which it's not Erebor, but it's very similar. What's your favourite medieval weapon? It would be either a Dane axe or a pole axe. Some sort of axe, I think. That would be what I'd have to go with. In the US, it would be called Colour Commentary. I've made Himring for Silmarillion Total War. A settlement? I would be most interested in seeing it. Once you do it. Silmarillion, interestingly enough, is the backdrop I chose for this one because it's got a new menu, so I just wanted to show that off. What's your favourite faction to play with in Reforged and why? We did actually touch on this earlier as well. I would probably go with Rudau because of the damage they're able to do quickly. And the fact that while they are a little bit more fragile, lighter armour and lower melee defense values, the damage they can do is more than enough to make up for it. And you can have numerous armies as well, which means even if you do take losses, it's not the end of the world. Bit more of the Hillman and Orcish influence in their blood. Love the dwarfs and Dale people. Yeah, people who like the dwarves are always big fans of the dwarves. If you desire to see it, I can send it to you even now. Is it finished? Again, if you're going to make there's no rush with these things. If you're going to make alterations, then please do take your time. But yeah, more Silmarillion big settlements would also be is also a sort of thing which it'll be interesting to see develop over the coming weeks and months. like Umbar for evil and usually Numenor for good factions, you very much have your type then. Numenorian heavy infantry. Why is the Snaga OP? Please nerf. No, the Snaga, I think we need to buff the Snaga. I think we need to give the Snaga like 5 HP and give them the best armor in the game, because they're clearly superior to all other life forms in Middle-earth. Anyway, on that note, we're going to start wrapping up here, because I think some good information has been shared. It's nice to do a live stream again. It's because one thing that has suffered a little bit as a result of my upheaval is that I haven't been able to engage with the channel and the people as much as I would like. So I think what I probably will end up doing is making this kind of live stream a little bit more regular. What I might aim to do is once every off-call period, so once every 6 or so weeks, we'll probably do a live stream. It won't always be just me talking into the camera on a main menu. I think we will do, so we'll do some battles here and there, and it can be more of a chilled out live stream sort of thing, because I do want to keep doing them. I definitely want to keep it ticking over, as with every other aspect of my of the channel. So yeah, I will look at scheduling that and making it a little bit more concrete, but I do want to make sure that we keep doing these. I don't want to make them completely go away, even in the busiest of times, but as I said, later on in the year it'll be less of an issue to do these. It's really just initially that it's going to be a little bit of a bump in the road. But yeah, thank you, Beastie, and thank you everyone for stopping by and joining. It's been some good questions, and it's been a nice little back and forth as well, nice and chilled out, and makes the midweek blues a little bit easier to deal with. So yeah, trying to think. I've already said what's going to be coming up soon, so it's not really much else to consider. But yeah, I'll be posting up on the channel probably some point later this evening, or possibly tomorrow, about maybe making one live stream slot a little bit more permanent, and we can go from there. So yeah, I hope that. Hang on a minute, where am I going? Yep. Okay, we'll get make sure that we do things in the proper fashion. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it somewhat informative, and I hope you'll join me, whatever's next.